So let's talk about how to actually get your prospecting plan in place. One of the big challenges is that there are these different forms of prospecting. There's these different methods, door to door. You have online marketing. You can pay for leads. You can pay for a telemarketer, So one of the big questions comes and says, okay, so how do you make a plan? You've got all these different things. How do we tie this all together in a plan? Well, the key to doing that is to understand the number one most important metric, which is a new database or a new qualified contact. Okay? So a new qualified contact has three criteria, three qualifications that make them qualified. Now, just to be clear, if I walk into a store and the person gives me the boot, I'm still going to put that into my database. So everybody goes in the database because that just makes sense when you're getting back out in the field the next time. It's good to know if somebody's not interested as much as it is if they are interested. But as far as your planning phase, you need to understand what a qualified contact actually is. So let me define a qualified contact for you. Number one, you spoke with the decision maker. You spoke with the decision maker. Now, in the workbook, I actually have down you spoke with the decision maker face to face. And 99 times out of 100, that's what I mean when I say you spoke to the decision maker. But I realize some of you may be selling over the phone, and of course, you're not going to speak with them face to face, so I left that off here. But you spoke with the decision maker. All right, that's number one. Okay? Number two, information was shared. Now, this is very important because as salespeople, we are inherently optimistic, which can be good. It can also be very bad. So when we say information was shared, what I mean by that is don't worry quite so much about how you feel about a prospect. You leave the business and say, oh, I just feel so good about that contact. I think they're going to buy. Well, let's not worry so much about how you feel about it because you're an optimist probably like me, and my wife constantly is talking to me about my unfailing optimism, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time, right? Because, on one side, I'm an optimistic person, so it's nice to hang around somebody who's optimistic. But on the flip side, I usually think things are going to turn out much better than they actually do. So I can be overly optimistic. And so what that means is that it clouds my judgment. And even though I might think a business owner was, really interested, did they share any information with me? Did they give me a credit card processing statement? Did they tell me who they're processing with? Did they tell me what their pricing is? Have they shared the information with me that I need in order to move forward to the next step in the sales process? When someone is nervous about sharing information with you, they don't trust you. And so it doesn't matter how they made you feel or how much you just think, oh, this person really liked me. Okay, well, did they share information with you? And if the answer is no, then they probably don't trust you very much, and this is not a qualified contact yet. So have they shared information with you, such as giving you a credit card processing statement, the name of who they're processing with, their fees, whatever information you asked for, did they give it to you? That's a qualified contact. So you've spoken with the decision maker. They have shared information with you freely. And number three, most importantly, they have agreed with you on a next action step. Now, a next action step can mean many, many different things. That next action step could mean that they have agreed to give you a statement on Thursday when you come back because they don't have one handy. I have a guy right now, actually, this week sometime. It's in my calendar. I think on Wednesday when I'm shooting a training right now. So when that's over, I have a guy right now that said this week he agreed to give me a processing statement. He told me, we talked about his credit card terminal. I was talking to the decision maker, and we agreed that this week sometime I would come back in and I would get his statement that he got on December 1st. So he has agreed to a next action step. That is a qualified contact. And so this qualified contact is the metric that ties together all of these different prospecting methods. And so I've talked to people that said, okay, well, James, I like to go to networking events. How do I gauge the effectiveness of a networking event? Well, you gauge it the same way that you gauge the effectiveness of going door to door or calling and scheduling appointments or purchasing leads from a telemarketing center. How many qualified contacts did you get? How many people from those efforts, from your networking or from your telemarketer, how many new qualified contacts have you added to your database that week where you spoke to the decision maker in person, preferably, they shared information with you freely, and they have agreed on a next action step? Now, obviously, it's going to be based on the honor system as far as you holding to these criteria when you're updating your database, but you need to be carefully considering who is a qualified contact and who is not a qualified contact, okay? And a qualified contact is somebody that meets these 3 criteria. So look at these 3 criteria, and as you're out in the field and as you're making the plans moving forward, I want you to think in terms of qualified contacts.